Eagles. Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Thursday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports, now fully in gear to prep for Week 15 in the NFL. Eagles taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers this week in a 4:25 matchup on Sunday. Johnny Mac, how you doing in this Thursday morning, brother?
Doing well. Yeah. It's not the AJ and Jalen show, so let's get it going with the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's what Jordan Mailata said. Not let's get it going, but
yeah, I saw that quote from Mailata.
Yeah, it's not the AJ and Jalen show, although it is this week.
Yeah, right. It has been, and we will talk a little bit about what those guys had to say. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but we will discuss what they had to say, and then, as I mentioned, we will deep dive into the Pittsburgh Steelers playoff, or not the playoff game, the Pittsburgh Steelers game this weekend, Week 15. Russell Wilson, Johnny Mac, 6-0 versus the Birds, 5-0 regular season, 1-0 in the playoffs. The famous Jadeveon Clowney, Carson Wentz game in Philly. Russell Wilson loves playing in Philadelphia, Johnny.
Never lost, man. Never lost to the Eagles. They're white whales, so to speak. They never stopped talking about how they wanted him back in the draft. And it's ironic because they ended up getting Nick Foles, who did eventually end up getting them a Super Bowl, their only Super Bowl championship. So you can't call that a failure. But obviously, Russell's had arguably a Hall of Fame career. So, but I always say about that, the constant complaints, he's the 75th pick in the draft. If you loved him that much, take him in the second round. If you loved him, take him in the first round. It would have worked if he had the same career.
Yeah, right. How much did you really love him?
Yeah, exactly. So I never, and they never stopped talking about it. How they were so close to getting him, and it's the third round.
That had anything to do with how they ended up with Jalen Hurts?
A little bit, and the fact that Howie's kind of mentioned it before. He didn't want another Russell Wilson situation by trying to wait to the third round. So a little bit, they learned from that. So you could take that bright side of that, but just in the actual picture of this particular player, Russell Wilson. Yeah, I never buy into that. 75th pick in the draft. Like I said, take him in the second round. Take him in the first round, and you still would have hit a home run. Now obviously that was the Fletcher Cox year, so they're not, they weren't going to take him. Whatever Fletcher was, 11th, 12th overall, they weren't going to take him that high. But second round pick was Michael Kendricks, very good player. But I mean, come on, if you loved him that much, that's where you take him.
Yeah, good stuff. We'll talk about that. Like I said, we'll put the final touches on the little drama stuff. I thought AJ and Jalen both had good comments yesterday. I like Jalen's press conference. He sounded like he was pretty good. AJ was fine. Is it just damage control, though, John, at that point when you get a press conference after something like this happens? I know everybody's excited to hear what they have to say, but
yeah, I think it's damage control. That's what Jordan Mailata was probably the best. He's like, there's nothing we can do now. People are going to take it any way they want to take it.
Right.
And he's right. So it is all damage control at this point. AJ clarified his, passing comment, which is so obvious. I mean, but again, we talked about it on the postgame show, saying that one word, not expounding and explaining what you're saying. It was going to be a problem. So if he said what he said yesterday after the game, nobody would have a problem.
Right.
So, and then BG, let's be honest, he did talk out of school and the rare mistake from Brandon Graham, veteran player. So this was all BG's fault. I love the guy, but I hate to put it, it's all BG's fault. And then I still think there's a bit of a disconnect because what concerned me, and I think you're right, that was one of Jalen's top 5 press conferences ever.
Yeah, I listened to the full thing. I agree.
But towards the end of it, he used the word submitted. I've submitted is setting myself to whatever it takes to win. You know, he's usually very intentional with his words.
Right.
He's talking about submitting to this style of offense. I don't think that's a good thing. And AJ on the other hand is like, you know, and he put the Joker thing up on, you know,
Yeah, on his social medias.
he's playing the villain to try to point out, hey, this is a fucking problem, which he shouldn't have to point out. And then the quarterback saying, well, you know, but we're winning, so I've submitted to this. Yeah, but the whole point is it's going to be a problem at some point. At least that's what everybody seems to think. You know, it's funny. We got talking, a couple of reporters and me got talking about Eric Dickerson and Saquon potentially breaking his record. And he didn't win MVP. And I'm like, I know it's been so long. I didn't remember who won MVP that year. And it was Dan Marino. And I think that's a perfect, and Dan should have won the MVP that year. And I think it's a perfect correlation of Dan never won a Super Bowl, got there first, never won a Super Bowl. One of the great pure passers of all time. Also, Dan Fouts, I would put in that same category. Both Hall of Famers, both just outrageous passing attacks in the primes of their careers. And they never won a Super Bowl because they were too pass heavy. And then, you know, you take it to the other side, the Eric Dickersons of the world, the Chris Johnsons, the Adrian Petersons, who I got to see up close. They never win the Super Bowl because they're too run heavy. And the Eagles are in the latter category right now. Nobody's saying you want to be Dan Marino, but you got to be better.
No doubt. And I think what you said echoed yesterday for me when I listened to the press conferences of this is not locker room issues. This is on the field issues. They have to fix the passing game and everything else will be perfectly fine. And that's the way I took it. Now, John, one quick question for you on what AJ Brown had to say yesterday. We had Sal Palantonio from ESPN last night on the night show.
Sal was down there yesterday.
Yeah, he joined from the NovaCare complex. It was cool. He had a nice Eagles backdrop. But his takeaway, one of his takeaways, without putting words in his mouth, but I just re-listened to the segment and I paraphrased it here. In your opinion, did AJ Brown use the media to get the message out here because he felt like it needed to get out? That was one of Sal Pal's takeaways, that he kind of used the big bad Philly media, as everybody likes to call them.
Or we had a guy yesterday that said we're throwing salt balls. So which is it?
Yeah, right.
We had a guy yesterday. Now, well, he said that. That's why Sal said it. AJ said it.
Right.
You know, basically, he said, you know, if it's got to be me, it's got to be me. If I'm that guy, I will be that guy gladly. That's what it is. I'll read you the entire quote. I'm okay with being whatever bad guy I have to be for this city or town, whatever the case may be, for my team to hold everybody accountable, be accountable, and to get better. If I'm that guy, I will be that guy gladly. That's what it is. That's why Sal said that, because that's AJ's direct quote. Now, do I believe that? I'm not sure I believe it. And that's where the Joker stuff comes in.
Right.
I think that's back to Jordan Mailata's point. If now it's all damage control now it's, you know, was that his plan to identify? Why did he need a plan to identify? It's fucking obvious. They threw for 83 net yards against the Carolina Panthers. AJ Brown's got to identify that. Now, I realize there's some fans that get upset no matter when you criticize the team, and you felt that when you put up some of the bottom 5 passing stats, now 31st in the league, whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, but they're winning games. So, you know, you're always going to have that group that's got the pom-poms, going to be the cheerleaders, yada, yada, yada. Nobody's got to point that out. So, no, I don't think he was using us to get out the point. Hey, by the way, guys, if you haven't noticed, the passing game stinks. So, no, I don't buy that completely. I think that's more of, spin now. And as far as being the bad guy and, later he got asked, do you think you're misunderstood? And I do think he's misunderstood. I've talked about that for years. People think like people say he's complaining, but he still to this day is not complained about not getting the football this year. Obviously wants the football, but he's not specifically complained about it, but people think he has. And he said, I'm not going to play the victim role. I said that for a reason, to bring that awareness. That's what I said, regardless of if I'm misunderstood or how I'm perceived, that's fine. Well, I would just say to that, if you need A.J. Brown to point out to you that this passing offense isn't working right now, the problem's probably not on A.J. Brown's side. So do I believe it? He might believe it. I don't believe it. But we were already talking about it on this show and every other show. So it was already out there. And, I try to put all the context on it, but they're winning games. And that's fine to be.
Yeah. And that's the rebuttal of everybody that if anybody wants to talk about this, and I wanted to talk about it, and now I'm getting the hate comments on the channel, Johnny Mac. The tables have turned on Big Zay. What do you think of this comment here? Dabney checks in, and Dabney is not a fan of Philly media, to put it mildly, based on his comments in the chat. But he puts, I mean, you could clearly tell AJ was talking about the passing game as a whole, but once again, Philly media, he's got to be talking about Hurts. And just asking you, John, what do you have to say about that line of thinking? Because when I think about that comment, I think, well, who throws the fucking ball every day, every play? Who touches the ball every? Now, I know there's concepts. I know there's coverages. I know there's all sorts of different things, routes. I get it. There's a lot more to it. But how is it not about Hurts? What do you have to say to that comment? And do you agree with me, or maybe?
Well, I can't even get to the comment because I'm enthralled by the Philly media comment.
Oh, you should have seen our channel yesterday.
I mean,
Philly media. How is this? This is the one time it's actually not Philly media. The players.
I just think it's so dumb. Like somebody says Philly media, I turn off. I'm like, what do you think? I can go down the list of all the names, the 30 people that are there yesterday. What do you think? We're all in concert? Do you think we all sit there as a platoon and sit there and say, hey, we're gonna upset your favorite team today because we're horrible people? I mean, I can't even get by. It's so dumb. It's so lowest common denominator. It's common sense. The Philly media is not a thing. If you want to call out an individual reporter, call out an individual reporter, because I got nothing to fucking do with them and they got nothing to do with me. Good, bad, or indifferent. Period. So anybody who says Philly media, shut the fuck up. It's stupid.
F-bomb early on the show today. Not everybody happy, John. It's the
it is a
bigger deal.
It is a stupid comment every time anybody uses that term. That's number one. But that's a pet peeve because I'm in the Philly media. That's just dumb. But beyond that, about the passing game, again, you can stick your head in the sand and say it's not a problem. And, you might even be right, but I think you saw the margin of error in what it was against Carolina. You're a Xavier Legette drop away from probably losing a football game against a 3-win team. Now, good luck against a good team who's playing well on a particular game day, if you bring that sort of effort with the passing game. Now, that was rock bottom. Like I said, Pittsburgh is one of the best defenses in the NFL. Arguably the best, right there. They could be in the conversation with the Eagles. Very few teams are at that top tier. They're one of them. The Eagles have been one of them. And I can't even picture against Pittsburgh them having that kind of passing performance, because they're going to be better. They almost have to be better. So, part of it will take care of itself. And again, I'm not trying to turn them into Dan Marino's Dolphins or Dan Bouts' Chargers.
Right.
We're just talking about efficiency and competency. And maybe then that can lift you up to the level where you want to be if the other sides hold up as well. Saquon's got to stay healthy, keep playing at an MVP level. Defense has still got to play like they're the best defense in the NFL. You need those as well. And I think people have defaulted to that as, well, that will never change. You know, there's no guarantee that's not going to change either. You know, a little bit of chinks in the armor defensively against Carolina when you saw some issues with Adam Thielen specifically. Chuba Hubbard just 5, 6, 7 yards, big said, at a chop, and all of a sudden you're having a little bit more difficulty. And you can see again the other 3 teams. I think everybody's focused in on the 3 teams in the NFC North. And there's a couple other ones that could jump up. You know, we've seen Tampa Bay. We've seen the Rams in the past. You know, who knows? Big game tonight in the NFC West. We'll see how that shakes out. You know. But, yeah, margin of error. That's what it's about, margin of error.
Good stuff there, Johnny Mac. I'm gonna welcome everybody in this morning. We appreciate everybody here. Even if you're mad at the Philly media, we appreciate you being here. Hit that like button for us on the show.
Nobody, if they think about it, they can't believe that. They can't. I must
have got 200 comments yesterday on the channel after I posted up a poll. The media is the word. I hate the media. I'm not mad at Brandon Graham. I'm mad at the media. I'm like, what? I don't know what. But hey, listen, that's what some people do. I appreciate the super chats coming in. We have a full open show today, so we will deep dive into the Eagles versus Steelers game. Should be a great matchup this weekend, everybody. Looking forward to talking about that game. And then I know people might not want to talk about the passing game. We got to talk about the passing game. I have some interesting, they're not stats, they're grades. And I think Kellen Moore potentially could be skating off easy when it comes to this passing game. I know Jalen Hurts hasn't been his best right now throwing the ball, but I think we got to look a little bit more at Kellen Moore, and I will run that by Johnny Mac a little bit later on in the show. So looking forward to talking about that and the super chats that come in. I will take all super chats, and we'll do many of them in hour number 2, and I'll get to the first 2 right now. Appreciate all you guys for helping us hit our super chat goal for the day today. Brandon Lewis says, if you want to see an insufferable member of the media, go watch Grant Cohn. I watch Grant Cohn all the time.
He's a shtick guy, but you know.
Well, I actually don't have that take at all on Grant. I mean, Grant he thrives on controversy for sure, but boy, he gives it to those fans straight. And to his credit, he's been right a lot this year.
Well, I'm not going to sit here and I don't know Grant. I know I've gotten a lot of bad reviews about, so I can't, you know, I'm not an expert on him, but it seems like he says stupid shit to get reaction. So,
well, he does say some stupid shit, but he is a guy that's
on purpose. But that's like, I have no problem. You know, if you believe something, I have no problem. Like, I don't believe he believes what he says. And that to me is not.
Yeah, right. You always say that you don't like that. And that's fair. I think that's very fair. F Body Guy checks in. 2 things are true. Philly fan base too reactionary, and some media faces know that and play into that to get a response.
Yeah, I have no problem with that response.
Yeah.
And you can say whoever you want to say. I don't care. I'm just saying. But the people who think it's one group, that's just silly. That obviously, we just talked about one in San Francisco. There's good reporters, and there's a lot of good reporters in San Francisco. There's people that do that in Philadelphia, of course, and there's people that don't. And mainly you're talking about radio. Let's be honest. Mainly you're talking about radio and a certain radio station. They don't come to the, you know, Elliot does, and Elliot's a friend of mine, and I think he gets too much shit. Bit of a hot take artist, I'll say that as well. But, you know, he's trying to do a good job. But as far as the people that talk on the radio, yeah, they're a bunch of, they're just trying to create engagement. And the guy who runs that station admits it. Trying to create engagement. That's what they want. But
Yeah,
that's not Jeff
well, I
McMullen.
guess maybe because I manage everything that I have a completely different. I mean, do people want us to not be successful and fail and then not cover the team? Like at the end of the day, just like football players have a job and the Eagles players have a job and Jalen Hurts has a job, John has a job to report on the team. Talk show hosts have a job to create engagement, listeners, viewers, metrics, and things to be successful. Everybody is trying to do a different job. I don't
Well,
understand
exactly. And
why.
I wish fans could better decipher. I wish there was more media literacy. Like Jeff McMullen doesn't do what some knucklehead on WIP is doing. I wish people could see the difference.
I certainly see that, but I guess you're right.
Um,
Not everybody does.
yeah. So, and the beat reporters who cover the team every day, they're not looking for engagement. They're looking for, information, and they have a different role and more and more it's become clouded because people like me and Zach and, do both ends of the spectrum. And I try to differentiate as much as possible. And sometimes you forget, and sometimes I forget to say, this is my opinion versus this is what I know.
Right.
And that part can be difficult, but I think people who know the show, I think we have, and I try to educate. I think we have the most educated fan base of any show that covers this team.
I think I would agree with that 100%. And to your point, I mean, I know it is hard to differentiate, but I think that's one of the key reasons that Birds 365 is such a great audience, because people like that. I mean, as much as people like to shit on the Philly media, I think people enjoy listening to your perspectives on the team as not
Some do and some don't. Some do and some want cheerleaders and some want actual information. And like I said, I mean, people get mad at me, and you guys probably get mad at me for chasing away viewers sometimes, and I get it. But
I don't get mad at you ever.
I'm never going to say shit to get engagement.
Right.
Just
but that's what makes, I think that's what makes this show great, and that's what makes you great at doing this. So I don't want to change that. Let's keep rolling. We got a bunch of super chats coming in. Appreciate everybody. We're going to deep dive into this Eagles versus Steelers game this weekend. I mentioned at the start of the show, everybody, Russell Wilson, 6-0 versus our Philadelphia Eagles, 5-0 in the regular season, 1-0 in the playoffs. And you guys remember the famous playoff game, the Jadeveon Clowney game, where I was at that game. That was the last Eagles game. No, that wasn't the last Eagles game I was at. That was the last playoff game I was at.
Yeah, and they should have won that game. Josh McCown, by the way, tore his hamstring, played that.
What was the final score of that game? Like 16 something or something?
Yeah, it was a very low scoring game. I'd have to look up, but Josh McCown came in, tore his hamstring right before halftime, played the whole game. If they were healthy, they would have won that game. No question about it. Josh, I don't know what he was at the time, 40. Yeah, he played well. That's just bad luck. Carson gets a concussion. Boy, he got a lot of crap for not coming into that game. Like, playoff game. Yeah, he's got a concussion. He's ruled out. I don't know, but Carson got that reputation. Disappointing loss, but yeah, I think when you see those numbers, and Nick Sirianni says this all the time. When people brought up, Merrill brought up, they never won in Cincinnati. It's like, what does that have to do with me? What does that have to do with AJ Brown? We've never played there. Same thing, Baltimore. They've never won in Baltimore. Well, now they have. They never won. Now they have. Maybe it's that year. They've never beaten Russell Wilson. What does that have to do with Nick Sirianni? Yesterday he was asked about, what he saw from Russell in Denver. He's like, I never prepared for him, So, those types of things don't really mean anything, because there's so much turnover. And especially when you're talking about, it means a little bit more when you're talking about Dallas trends and division foes, Giants, Commanders. But, they see the Steelers once every 4 years. It'll change a little bit with the extra game, I guess. But, they're here once every 8 years. They haven't won here since 1965. So
Yeah.
you're going to hear that constantly. Well, they've barely been here.
Yeah,
It's
Nick's
still
gonna say-
weird.
Yeah.
It's still
It is.
weird because they were such a good team for so long that they haven't been able to win here. So it's still a little bit weird, and I get why people, but they're barely ever here. So, that's what Mike Tomlin will say from their end. It's like, what does that have to do with TJ Watt or, somebody like that?
Yeah, speaking of TJ Watt, they better block that guy. He is an absolute beast. We're going to dive more into that game. Let me just read a couple super chats here. Rashid says, can we agree that Jalen can play better, but the reason the pass game fell off is because Kellen decided he didn't want the love Green Bay type of offense?
Well, I don't know if he doesn't want it.
All right.
He ascertained that they couldn't run it, and they're trying to build around. It's no coincidence that people early in the season said, "Oh, Nick must be calling the offense." Whether it was Nick or Shane or Brian Johnson or Kellen Moore, people should take notice that this is pretty much the same offense from. There's always a little bit of tweaks. There's always a little bit of a difference with play callers just from their, decisions in the moment. But as far as the overall scheme, since, game 7 of year 1 of Nick Sirianni, it's pretty much the same offense. And that's because all 4 guys are trying to build the offense around the quarterback and trying to take advantage of what the quarterback does well. That was not the plan coming in. You're hoping to evolve it, but they scaled back to that, which is should be pretty obvious to people. And, at the bye week when they went run heavy as they did in week 8 in 2021, when they scaled back. And I've been talking about it for a while. To me, that's disappointing. And I thought a little reactionary because, again, those first 4 games this year when they were 2-2, yeah, and there were obviously some difficulties and some turnovers, but AJ didn't play 3 of them. So I thought it was way too reactionary to make that kind of drastic change, but it's hard to argue that when you've won every game since. And that's the Eagles are almost a prisoner of their success now, because you don't want to say, oh, we won 9 games. Let's change for the sake of change. It's hard to do that. In fact, if you want to go back to last year, I think Nick Sirianni's biggest mistake, and I've said this consistently, is taking the defense away from Sean Desai. Not that it was great, but it was a hell of a lot better than Matt Patricia. And he thought about that change when they were 8-1, which is 8-0 actually. I believe. No, I forget. Anyway, with the bye week, whatever they were, they had a tremendous record. And he was started to think about it. And then the Dallas game, he took away 3rd downs, and then he took away the whole thing. Nutty. So I don't think they're going to be doing that again offensively and saying, all right, we've won 9 straight games, but this is not working well, so we should change and become Dan Marino. I don't think you're looking for that, but you are looking for more effectiveness in the passing game.
Yeah, we'll see. Good stuff there. Appreciate it, Rashid. Jason A-Team says, everyone forgets the media is the bridge between the team and the fans. Without any of its parts, it wouldn't be as popular or as powerful of an entity, but Hurts had a great presser yesterday. I think that's well said there, Jason A-Team. And Hurts did have a good presser. John, any response for A-Team?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people say, well, the media shouldn't be in the locker room. The media shouldn't do that. The media do. Well, again, you're not getting information you want, whether you realize it or not, if we're not in there.
Yeah.
You'll have the state-run media, so to speak, with, the team's websites, which is obviously always going to give you the rosiest picture. So again, it depends on what kind of fan it is. The fan who wants the actual information versus the fan that wants the cheerleader. But yeah, that's why even the NFL recognizes, Why does so-and-so have to talk to the media? Because the NFL says they do. And why does the NFL say they do? Because they understand part of their popularity is due to the coverage of their sport. And if
Yeah, it
that,
exponentially grows the
yeah,
league when there's thousands of podcasts in every city and shows and
yeah,
reporters and pieces, and it's exponential.
yeah. So, the NFL is well aware that it's, if people are talking about you, it's better than if people are not talking about you.
Good stuff. Dirty Air, big thanks, man. You dropped this and a $10 one. Big thanks, Dirty Air. Thank you for your support, brother. And it was great talking to you the other day on the round table. Fun talking with you guys. Dirty Air says, disconnect from the media for me. Is no one asking AJ what he meant by passing, or is this about Jalen? Giving him a chance to clarify on the spot. Instead, it was left up to interpretation, mostly by national media. And then he followed up and said, it wasn't up until 3 days later we got those questions answered. All part of your job is tough. Sports aren't what they are without you guys. I appreciate what you all do. Yeah, Johnny Mac wasn't there to follow up, but I understand what he's saying.
Yeah, but there were people that did follow up.
Yeah, and you saw the way.
So
he wasn't giving a big answer.
Yeah, I don't know. He was asked. I have the transcript. I have he was asked multiple times, and he was just given 1 and 2 and maybe 5-word answers. He was given the opportunity to follow up many times. Chose not to. He was frustrated. Your thoughts on the offensive performance? It wasn't good enough. We did good things at times, but overall it wasn't good enough. That was probably his longest answer. What's going on with the passing offense? I don't know. You say offense not good enough. What are some things it has to improve on? Passing. That was the key quote. Devontae says everyone wants to get into a rhythm. How hard is that? Only throwing 20, 21 times a game. Incredibly tough. Moments on the sideline when he threw at the end of the bench through his helmet. What prompted that? 3 and out. As a leader of this offense, what's saying about change? What are you saying about changing the offense and standard? Put our head down, go to work, and doing the things that we're doing. Yada yada. Express concerns to Kellen. Yes. How have those conversations gone? Well. Problems fixable in the passing game. Are they fixable? Yeah, everything is fixable. Anything can get better. What would it take to fix? I don't know. Does that sound like not following up? He had literally 10 opportunities. So, again, that's just not the case.
Good stuff, Dirty Air. Thank you for your support, brother. Jeff Bone says, we're fine. We're good. I like it, Bonehead. Appreciate you being here, brother. Great talking with you the other day on the show as well. Rodney Burton checks in, John. What is CHF? Is that Swiss franc? What?
I don't
know. CHF
what
currency? Any idea?
I do not know.
See, John is my
no, but I'm not. Martin Frank's the world traveler. Martin goes.
Okay, so Martin would know that. Maybe I gotta get CHF. I think it's Swiss franc. I'm not exactly sure what the hell it is. He says, John and Zander, great job. I think Jalen's height affects his vision. Kellen Moore needs to move the pocket around because that line is massive and he's missing wide open guys on the move. Also, they should use mesh concept. But they have been using a little bit more of mesh. At least it looks like it to me. But I think it's an interesting point about the line, John. I don't know what to make of it. I mean, I can't speculate whether it is or it isn't a problem, but
it is a Swiss franc, though. I'm obsessed with that. Yes, it is.
Is it? I thought it was something like that.
That's a good job by you. Swiss, yeah, it is a Swiss franc.
There you go. Rodney, it up.
Yeah, I mean, as far as they've been using mesh concepts for years, but the passing up, the height thing, but Kai back then is the biggest guard I've ever seen. But I mean, what is the difference between 6'7" and 6'5"? And I asked Jalen that question in the preseason, and he said, yeah, it's a thing. I mean, anytime Lane's 6'6", Jordan's 6'8", Makai's close to 6'8", although he seems bigger than Jordan, so he's probably Landon 6'6" inside. I mean, in the past, they've had Lane forever, obviously. Brandon Brooks was 6'5", You know, it's the way the NFL's going. You know, Jalen's not the only quarterback who's undersized from a height standpoint from traditional. I mean, you have the Drew Breeses of the world. You have Russell Wilson coming in this week, who's under 6 foot.
Right.
You know, Drew's obviously a Hall of Fame quarterback. Russell's probably going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback. I mean, yeah, I don't put too much credence in that.
Yeah. I think it could be a factor, but I don't think it could be an excuse or a reason that you can't see. I mean, I think it could potentially limit you a little bit, but I don't think it could be a reason that you're missing.
Yeah.
Guys.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, would it be nice that, you know, if you had Justin Herbert's size? Sure. But it's not realistic.
Rodney, thanks for the super chat, man. We appreciate that from Switzerland, the Swiss franc. I love it. One more super chat here, and then we will get into this game here. I appreciate everybody for helping us reach our super goal today. Pretty cool of you guys for dropping all these super chats. JH says, the reality is we have a decent QB, but certainly no GOAT. We have to accept this for the time being. He does have many game-winning drives and seems to get it done when it matters despite his flaws. Now that I will 100% agree with. He wins a lot of
talk about it all the
games.
time. Relentlessness. He's so relentless on opposing game. And even in that game, as poorly as he played, he had 4 big off-schedule plays that helped him win the football game. He's a very, I use the term unique all the time. He's a very unique player. And like typically, if you give those numbers for a quarterback, you have no chance to win the game. But they're not generating passing stats, but they're not generating 35-yard runs on third down, 15-yard runs on third down, 27-yard passes on off-schedule plays. They're not doing that. He is. So there's plenty of good. You just want to get them back to where the effectiveness of the passing is, and I'm not even saying top tier like it was at times in 2022. I'm just saying middle of the road. You know, for all the talk about Brian Johnson, the passing game last year was a hell of a lot better than this year. I got news for you people.
It was way better. And it's not just about volume. That's what I'm going to get into in hour number 2. I want to show you guys, I'm going to show John some stats that I was looking up, and not really stats. They're more grades. And I'm going to get John's take on it, because I wonder if Kellen Moore is, has got to be better.
There's unintended consequences to everything. That's why I brought up Eric Dickerson and Adrian Peterson and Chris Johnson and all these 2,000-yard runs. There's unintended consequences. And when you're that good running the ball, you tend to fall off passing the ball. And that's why it's probably better to have a 1,500-yard rusher playing at an all-pro level.
Right.
And it's probably better to have a little bit of both columns. Then on the other end, same thing. If you're throwing it around like Dan Marino, if you're throwing it around like Dan Fouts, that's not good either if you have no running game to complement it. So it works both ways.
Yeah, definitely could use some more balance. All right, appreciate everybody for all those super chats to start the show here. Here we go. The turning of the page, okay? Turning of the page on the drama. We will turn the page on the drama, and now time to dive into the Eagles versus Steelers game. Johnny Mac, Steelers, first in the AFC North. They're 10-3. I believe they've won 6 of their last 7 games. Philadelphia Eagles are 11-2, 9 straight wins, both first in their division. Eagles obviously first in the NFC East. A big 425 matchup. Before we dive into some of the specific things from afar, how you seeing this game, John? What sticks out to you as keys to the game coming into this Sunday?
Well, I do think the Steelers are kind of limited offensively, and that's with George Pickens, and it looks like he's doubtful, so I'm not sure if he's going to be able to play. So, I don't think they're very explosive offensively. So I think that sort of trends well for the Eagles, who are obviously playing tremendous when it comes to the defensive side of the football. Defensively, though, man, they are loaded and they were playing at a high level. and it starts with TJ Watt, but there's so much more than just TJ Watt. And, up front, they got good they seem to always have good linebackers. But Cameron Hayward is, I don't know. He's got to be 35 years old.
Yeah, I
but
think he's 36, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he's up there. He's
35. Yep, 35.
He's an amazing player. Nate Herbig's brother, Nick Herbig, is an amazing player as a pass rusher. Alex Highsmith is amazing. They have 3 really good pass rushers when we talk about the Eagles. And now they got Preston Smith. So, and we have that's to compliment TJ Watt. They have the best pass rush in the NFL. That it is relentless. They have the best front 7 in the NFL. And then Minka Fitzpatrick is really special at safety. Joey Porter Jr. is talented, but not having a great season. So probably their weakness.
Taking a lot of penalties, Joey Porter.
Yeah, probably their weakness is their corners, their lone weakness. But right, are the Eagles prepared to take advantage of that? Not the Eagles recently. Everything else. Peyton Wilson is a guy, injuries and draft and all that stuff. Back when we were talking about what are the Eagles doing at linebacker, I thought that was a guy that would fit.
Right.
Because Patrick Queen has the big name, coming over from Baltimore, which is interesting because of their rivalry. They're just loaded. They're loaded in the front 7. Best front 7 in football.
Going to be an interesting matchup with those guys coming in. John, how the hell do you block TJ Watt? And does he mainly line up on that side where Lane Johnson will be, or do they move him around a lot?
They move him around a little bit, but they don't move him around a lot. And it's one of those situations where if he, feels something, or they'll let him move because he's so gifted. But it'll be mainly Lane. And the Eagles are better equipped to handle that type of player,
right,
than anybody else. But, he's one that, they always say it about Micah Parsons, if you can't block him, read him. That, I think, is what they'll try to do with the run game. But yeah, I think that term game record gets thrown around a little bit too easily. But not for him. He's one of those guys that can absolutely wreck a game. Absolutely wreck a game. And like I said, they got 3 other big time pass rushers on the outside. I'm not even talking about Hayward, who's phenomenal inside. But Highsmith is back. I mentioned Herbig. And to go along, and they traded for Preston Smith, who's been a good pass rusher in Green Bay for years. So it's a really strong group as far as the front 7 goes.
Yeah, that's about as interesting as of a matchup as you will get. You got the Eagles offensive line, probably the best in football, top 2, top 3 in football, up against TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Nick Herbig, and Preston Smith. John, turn on the TV. Well, you'll be at the game, but turn on the TV and watch a battle in the trenches. That's good old school.
And like I said, Hayward's was still one of the best interior defensive linemen. And they even got a young kid, Benton, who's really good, and they've gotten him going. So they're about more than just their edge rushers. I mean, they're good on the interior too. But I think the good news is this is not a team that's going to be explosive offensively. So I think that limits their ceiling a little bit, but defensively, I take them right up with anybody. I think them and the Eagles are in the conversation for being I'll take that defense, and I'll take the Eagles defense. But I do give. I think people know by now. I'm a big Banjo fan. I think they have more talent than the Eagles defense. But yeah, it's really gifted group.
Yeah, Vic has the Eagles obviously playing above what we were expecting on them. There is a lot of talent on that Pittsburgh game. John, is it fair to say Jalen Hurts gonna have to play this game a little different? You just talked about that front seven for Pittsburgh. They're going to be coming all day long. And here's a stat from Denise Selman, who joins PHLY. He puts this out. Jalen Hurts' 2024 average time to throw, 3.05 seconds, is the longest of his career and third longest of any quarterback in the last 4 years. The only two who were longer are 2023 Justin Fields and 2022 Justin Fields.
Yeah,
so you don't want to be holding the ball. John, you don't want to be holding the ball when you got TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, Highsmith, and Preston Smith running at you, my friend. You don't want to be holding on to the football.
Yeah, Brandon BLG and I have been talking about this since training camp.
Yes, you have.
Now those time to throw stats, like I don't know where Denise is getting his, and how do you pronounce his name? It's very.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't. I assume.
I don't want Dennis. I think it's Dennis. So
it might be Dennis.
Yeah,
I said Denise.
Yeah, so I said even worse. I think I said Denise, but I think it's Dennis. But anyway, they're kind of hinky. I don't know. Like I use next gen stats, so everybody's got different. Now with next gen stats, Jalen is second to Lamar Jackson, and there's a reason guys like that are at the top because they hold on. That's part of their game.
Right.
So it's not necessarily bad if you're making plays on the back end, which sometimes Jalen does, but recently, from a larger standpoint, has not been. So they have him at 3.12, even worse than that number, but he's second. And then, third is Sam Darnold, traditional play action quarterback. Fourth is Justin Fields. Fifth is Brock Purdy, traditional play action quarterback. So those play action guys are going to take longer because they have long developing routes. But that's the way the offense is designed. Then you have the dual threat guys like Lamar and Jalen and Justin Fields, and you have to look at them. In the case of Justin Fields, he just does not process well. In the case of Jalen Hurts, he just does not process well this season. We always go back, Brandon and I always go back to the Super Bowl season. The number was 2.78.
Right.
That's an eternity from 2.78 to 3.12. If he can get back down, play the rest of the season at 2.78, and he's making quicker, sharper decisions, I think the Eagles get much, much better. But I do think that's an important stat. He holds on to, you saw it. Anybody who's watching social media or likes film people, everybody had their takeout this week. And every single one of them, the ball's not coming out. I've been talking about it since week 1 in Green Bay. All the turnovers, late throws, ball's not coming out on time. For whatever reason, he is not comfortable right now.
That's going to be important this week, too. The Pittsburgh Steelers, we just talked about their front seven, a beastie group. And now you got they're also the number 4 run defense in the NFL, allowing just 91.5 yards a game. It might be, and also their weaknesses, their corners. I mean, if this sounds like a game where you want to get that ball out and get the ball to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. I don't know if
it might be counterintuitive, but it might help playing Pittsburgh because you can't mess around with Pittsburgh. Like you probably go into that Carolina game, whether it's subconscious or not, and say, well, we always talk about human nature. Human nature plays into it. With Pittsburgh, you're going to be hyper alert to, if I hold on to this football, bad things are going to happen. So in a counterintuitive way, this might be exactly what this team needs right now when it comes to that. When it comes to, all right, no more messing around. We're this defense will eat us alive if we're not getting the football out on time.
Good matchup with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, too, going up against Joey Porter Jr. and Dante Jackson. That seems to be the mismatch when you look at this Eagles offense versus Steelers defense. They're great against the run. I mentioned 4th in the league, and that pass rush is just vicious. So, if you know, how big of a matchup is that? A.J. Brown going up against Joey Porter Jr. and Dante Jackson.
It seems like we talk about this every week. It should
Right.
be big. It should be a big advantage. But if you don't throw the football, it can't be a big advantage. I mean, will he catch 4 of his targets? All 4 of his targets? Probably.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say A.J. Brown's going to have more than 4 targets this week.
Hopefully. And it's about more than AJ as well. Devontae, I mean, even more so, is not getting the football. Nobody's getting the football consistently. And that's because they throw it 20, 21 times a game. And if you're throwing it that little, it's about, well, you got to be effective in those number of throws. And at times the Eagles have been. Lately, they have not been. So it's kind of where you are with the receivers.
Looking at this Steelers passing game, John, you mentioned it's kind of pedestrian, and I'll add in this. Mike Tomlin said George Pickens is doubtful to play the game. So you take out George Pickens. The Eagles, by the way, lead the league right now in running percentage at 56.5%. The number 2 team in the league is the Pittsburgh Steelers at 51.6%. Now they're without their top wide receiver, which means their top receiver in this game is going to be Pat Freiermuth, who leads the team outside of Pickens, who's their tight end. Could be a
very good player.
They could be relying on that running back, Najee Harris, this week, John. They might run the ball 30 times versus Eagles defense.
Yeah, Freiermuth is a very good player. But anytime you have a tight end as your best receiver, defenses love that because they're not going to be explosive. You're not getting explosive plays down the field. But he's a very good player. And then they fall off pretty dramatically. Najee Harris is also their 3rd leading receiver. So, and Harris is a good running back, but he's not explosive. He's under 4 yards a carry. More of a move the chains type guy like Chuba Hubbard. So it becomes, all right, 5, 6, 7 at a time versus Saquon hitting home runs. So you don't have to worry about the home run really. Very limited offensively, I would describe them as. And especially limited without George Pickens, who's their one deep threat. Not that, and by the way, not that he's like, you're not going to be frightened of this offense when he's on the field. But
but he does change up their offensive plan a little bit. He averages.
Yeah, but he's not AJ Brown, is what.
No.
Yeah. So I mean,
AJ Brown except Jamar Chase and maybe Justin Jefferson, but he averages 15.5 yards per catch now. So it does allow your offense to play a little bit differently when you have a receiver that does that.
Yeah. Well, they're much better when he's out there, but I'm saying even when he is out there, they're not exactly explosive as an offense. It's just the way they play. And Russell, one of the questions, he hurt his calf early, and Justin Fields was winning some games, and people were, kind of shocked when they went to Russell Wilson. I'm like, you shouldn't be shocked. I mean, he's a tremendous upgrade over Justin Fields, but he's not the same player he once was. But again, 5-0, 9 touchdowns. I think 1 interception against the Eagles all time. But maybe it's that type of season. Never won in Cincinnati. 1 in Cincinnati. Never won in Baltimore. 1 in Baltimore. Never beat Russell Wilson. Maybe they beat Russell Wilson.
Looking at this Steelers offensive line, John, with the Eagles pass rush, how do you see it? Their right side is a little weaker. They had 2 injuries there at their right guard and right tackle, which means Mason McCormick will be their starting right guard and Broderick Jones will be their starting right tackle. They had Troy Fatanu, who was their first-round pick this year. He got injured in week 1, and then they had James Daniels, and he got injured with an Achilles tear, so his season is done. Now they're 2 backups on the right side of that offensive line. The left side's pretty good. They got an old friend, Isaac. Left guard, and Dan Moore Jr. at left tackle, and then a rookie, Zach Frazier, in at center.
Yeah, I mean, Zach Frazier's, playing really well, by the way, as a rookie.
He was a second rounder, if I'm not mistaken. I think he was second round.
Yeah.
And then offensive line, first 2 rounds this year.
Yeah. And by the way, I think the Eagles would have taken Fatano at 22. And you never know what happens. But also Nate Herbig is there. Not only Nick, our old buddy Nate Herbig is there, but he doesn't play. Andy Waddle's there. Should mention, give a shout out.
Nate and Nick are there? Both Herbig brothers.
Nate, both Herbig brothers are there. But obviously
they got the Hayward brothers too. They like a brother combo over there in Pittsburgh.
And Andy Waddle, Andy Waddle's their assistant GM. Shout out to him. And he builds like the Eagles build. And that's why I think you saw almost a shadow draft, because the Steelers were right ahead of the Eagles. You could almost predict, what the Eagles were thinking by what Andy was thinking. And he's a very good personnel guy. But yeah, you mentioned those 2 names. James Daniels maybe is their best offensive lineman when he's healthy. And if he were healthy, you have Daniels with Sayamalo, and Frazier and Patano. And, then you can kind of choose Broderick Jones or Dan Moore, whichever. Then you're really cooking with gas. But yeah, they got 2 injuries with probably their 2 most talented offensive linemen. And that's saying something, because Isaac's pretty good. And Zach Frazier's pretty good. But, they don't have those guys. They don't have Daniels. They don't have Patano. So not as strong as it would be, but some good solid players there. But not nearly what the Eagles are yet.
It should be I think Jalen Carter is going to be leaning to that left side a little bit between Frazier and McCormick. See if he can pick on those 2 players and get some pressure up the middle for Jalen Carter. So good stuff there. John, last thing I want to hit on, and then we will dive into hour number 2. All Super Chats will go to the front, and we'll have a little bit of a Q&A. If you guys want to ask Johnny Mac anything, we will take all Super Chats, and we appreciate everybody watching this morning. Don't forget to hit that like button, guys. We've been crushing it on Birds 365 on the likes in the last couple of weeks, and that's all because of you guys. So big thanks to you guys for doing that. Over 500 on YouTube right now, so smash that like button. Let's get to at least 150 to 200 if we can before the show is out. Johnny Mac, last thing I want to talk about here before we get to our break. Special teams. And I didn't think I'd go down this route, but you got to when you have a kicker that's struggling the way that Jake Elliott is. And on the flip side, Braden Mann's been a pretty damn good punter for
Braden Mann's been
this year.
Tremendous.
Yeah. How much of an impact could special teams play in this game, in your opinion?
Well, Chris Boswell's the most accurate kicker of all time. So, typically last year, Boswell's the underrated part of the group. He's been so good for so long. But last year, Jake was such a good kicker, but he's not this year. So right now, I think you got a lot more confidence in Chris Boswell than you do in Jake Elliott, or you should, because that guy is nails. I think he's 30. I'm trying to say 36 of 39 on field goals this year. And the 50+ stuff, he's 11 of 13.
Yeah, and in the last 2 years, he's 17 of 20 from 50+. So he's hitting at a high rate right now.
Yeah. And think about 21 to 23. Jake was 17 of 19 from 50+. So that's how good he was. But now he's over 5. So Obviously, it's a little bit of a mental thing with Jake Elliott right now. He's lost his stroke, so you have to give them the big advantage when it comes to kicker. But yeah, Braden Mann's been great. I'm not sure how much people see, but like I said about that the Eagles perfectly executed being what they aren't. And that's at the end of the Carolina game by being non-aggressive because they didn't trust the kicker. And then Braden Mann did a great job, and Avonte Maddox did a great job executing the punt. But again, and I think BLG described it best, and maybe it was Jimmy Kempsky described it best, was there were 3 options there. And the only one that guaranteed Carolina had a chance to win the game was the option the Eagles chose. And they don't do that. And they did it because they don't trust their kicker right now. And that, to me, we've talked about it a little bit, but we haven't talked about it a lot because of the nonsense off the field. That, to me, is an issue as well. So you got to trust your kicker. And they have been for many years, and all of a sudden they aren't trusting it.
John, have you learned anything or any inside information you can share as to why you think Jake Elliott might have taken? I mean, maybe not, but like Twiz asked a good question. John, is Jake affected by not being involved on kickoffs? It is odd to now use Braden Mann on kickoffs. Like, is there anything there that you've read or talked to Jake about maybe that could indicate why he might have slipped this year? Anything or no?
Well, Jake, yeah, we talked to Jake a bunch. I mean, he talked again yesterday. He's a very process-driven guy. He says the same thing every time. It doesn't change. Whether he makes it, misses it, he keeps the same process every single time. He said he feels good hitting the ball. Said he's not a stats guy, to my personal love. Says he never looks at him, just tries to keep it kick by kick. So he's a very, as I said, process driven guy. But, and it served him well, but it's not serving him well right now. So I asked Michael Clay about that. We've asked Michael a lot. We've asked him about the kickoff thing. I mean, Braden's better at it, basically. That's why he does it. And also the Eagles sport down aggressiveness. We asked Michael Clay about that as well, because he doesn't get many opportunities at times. Right. If that affects him, I guess a little bit, but this has been going on for years. And the guy is just, sometimes with kickers it's a very mental position, and it gets in your head. It's like a slump in baseball, slump in golf. Golf is the best because you have the stroke. Guys lose their stroke for whatever reason.
I think golf is a great example because I think there's precision to kicking. Like I would like to think, and I don't know this, I'm not an NFL kicker and I've never really talked to one about what it's like, but I would like to think that when they miss right, you know exactly why you missed right. Like if you golf, for anybody that golfs, when you miss a shot, most of the time you know what you did. You picked your head up, you hit it off the toe, you hit it off the heel, I think there's a little bit of that when it comes to NFL kicking too. It's a precision thing, and if it's not doesn't hit the foot perfect, it's not going to go where you want it to go.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same stroke every time. When you're doing it right and when you're not, certain things go wrong. Michael mentioned, there was an issue last game with the operation. Wouldn't say what it was. Could be the snap, could be the hold. I think people really, really don't see that. Most NFL kicks, makeable NFL kicks, most with good kickers, it's always the hold or the snap. Almost always. Almost always. So even if that's off a little bit, if it's a high snap and you get it down late, if it's a little bit of a bobble, if he doesn't get the laces around, all that kind of stuff, Ray Finkel, yada, yada. Yeah, the operation part of it doesn't get looked at. There was a famous missed field goal in the playoffs with Blair Walsh, who, it's like a 27 against Russell Wilson, the Seahawks, against, I think it was 27-yard missed kick. game over, would have won the game, missed it. And it was a bad weather game in Minnesota. It was snowing. It was negative. It's January in Minnesota. They were outside because it was the time in between the Metrodome and US Bank Stadium. They were playing outside at the University of Minnesota. So it was a cold weather game. And everybody's making all these excuses and, bad hold, bad snap, blah, blah, blah. And Blair Wall said, if we'll put down like a watermelon, I should be able to make a 27-yard kick. So to his credit, he took full responsibility for the missed kick, but he was never the same. He was an all-pro kicker, missed that kick. It was out of the league in a couple years. Very mental position. And when you start going in a negative direction, it can get negative real quickly.
Yeah, can unravel a little bit. Hopefully that doesn't happen with Jake Elliott, who's had a bad year this year. Lauren Crampsey checks in. Mac, has Jake been on an injury report at all this season? Agree completely regarding the mental aspect, and they are often not really culturally part of the team. That's an interesting perspective there, Lauren. John, has any response to Lauren there?
Yeah, it can be. I mean, specialists are always off the side, but Jake is very popular in the locker room, so that's not the case. I always joke he's great at everything: ping pong, golf, softball. Anything with hand-eye coordination. He does trick golf shots. You can see he puts on his Instagram or whatever at times. He's very popular amongst the team, so that can be question a thing with specialists, but not in this case. As far as injury, no, he's not been injured. He had a bad year in 2020. People forget Doug Peterson's last year, and he bounced right back. And that's the hope here. Sometimes, like again, you miss one kick, and as mentally strong as you try to be, and as many times as you've done it, it's a lot of pressure, man. A lot of pressure in that job. No doubt. Then when you start, all your chances are, from 52. Like it would have been 52 and 54 if they let him try it. And then there's extra points where you can get a feel. And he missed an extra point, but that was about being offsides, and the Eagles went for the 2-point conversion. That I wouldn't be concerned about that one, but I do think there is something to that rhythm part of it, and maybe they should let him kick off. I think there's something to that.
Keep the damn leg loose. Is it that worth it for Braden Mann because he's 5% better at it?
Well, I think they saw it. He's a little bit better at it, and I think they saw it as let's try to save Jake's leg a little bit, and maybe it's had the opposite effect.
I don't know, but I don't think we need to be preserving legs. But hey, maybe I'm wrong about that. Lauren, appreciate your super chat. And yeah, we did cover AJ. We did cover all that stuff at the open of the show today. So for those who are just checking in, if you want to see and hear about the final touches on the drama and what went on in the locker room yesterday,
hopefully final touches.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see how it develops this year. Now, when we come back, I got a stat. All right. I got some, not stats. I got some numbers I want to run by John McMullen. I want to see what he thinks of this, what I was looking at yesterday. And does Kellen Moore need to be in the bullseye a little bit more when it comes to this passing game? We will see about that. So when we return, we'll do that. And then we'll take all super chats as well. Get a Q&A for Johnny Mac here as we prep for this Eagles-Steelers week 15. Week 15, everybody. What are there, 18 weeks, John, in the year? We're at week 15.
Yeah, it goes quick. It goes quick.
I'm almost sad a little bit already. I'm almost sad that we're in the.
Well, you might have, if they go where they want to go, you're going to have some extra week. And
that's true. But I mean, just in general, football, like nothing is better for me, John, than on Mondays and Thursdays is like, you get off a long day of work, and then I just sit down and like, all right, I can watch some football. Like I love that. When football's going, I don't watch shit on TV.
Well, that part's true. No games. But I got to tell you, the off season, a lot of ways, is more fun for me than the regular season. There's much more interesting things going on in the off. That's what kind of fuels football's popularity.
Yeah,
along with betting.
we do great in the off season, man. We got a great loyal fan base who watches us all through the off season. So if you're watching
And
now,
you got free agency, you got
yeah,
the
free
draft.
agency draft, it's all fun, man. There's a
Yeah.
lot of speculation. It's cool. It's a lot of fun to cover the off season. Last season was my first off season. I didn't pick it up till after the draft, so it'll be cool for me to do this year before the draft and be on the air. Last year I started up for
Edge rusher.
Yeah, right.
Well, we
Edge rusher. That's it. Let's just start scouting edges. I know Daz in the chat has been looking at some.
We got plenty of time for the draft, though, and free agency. You know, a lot of people are worried about contracts, Zach Bond's contract. Plenty of time for that. Run it, Joy. You know, that's been a theme as the Eagles this week. 10-1 last year. You know, the famous, most miserable 10-1 team in history. You know, Nick has mentioned, you know, take joy in the wins. Michael Clay mentioned it. Joy, joy, joy. Boy, this team, they've been so good for so long now. It's like, you know, it's absurd the amount of wins they've had over the past 3 years. And they just ain't happy unless it's wins plus style points.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, let's get to our break here. Antoine says, Zander not watching TV is obvious. He didn't know what Sonic was. That is correct. And although this is the new thing I've been enjoying very much so, Antoine, is I'm subscribed to the NFL Plus, and NFL Films, they do a really good job, and they have so much content on there. So I've been enjoying a bunch of NFL film stuff, watching some history of the game. It's a lot of fun, and I enjoy doing that. And this is my guy here, Hassan. John, I talked to Hassan on our roundtable the other day from Alabama. So I talked to Hassan last night. You'll be pleased to know, Hassan, I watched the NFL Films show. It's called A Football Life, and they do a segment. They have a bunch of episodes, 11 seasons on different people. And I watched the Nick Saban episode last night, and they went deep into when he benched Jalen for Tua. And Nick, you know, spoke about, listen, this was not a whim decision. This was premeditated of the Georgia has a great front seven. If Jalen can't run the ball effectively, we got to be able to throw the ball well to win this game.
We're still talking about it.
Listen, it was good. It was cool to see that last night. I enjoyed that. Hassan, go check that episode out. I know you're a big Bama football fan. That is a great episode on Nick.
Sorry, guys, but I'm happy Bama's not in the party. Sorry.
Yeah, I know Johnny Mack is, but Nick Saban's a fucking legend, Joe.
Oh, I agree with that.
Yeah. Bill Belichick called him in the show the greatest football mind he's ever been around. He respects nobody more, he said, than Nick Saban. Pretty cool.
Yeah, well, they're good friends. I mean,
yeah,
Nick was, you know, that's where Nick got his start. So
yeah, Cleveland. Yep.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right, we'll get to our break. Like I said, I got this topic coming up, and we'll see what Johnny Mack thinks of it. Is Kellen Moore the issue? We will talk about that next on Birds 365. Let me tell you first about BetUS. Go to betus.com.pa. That's betus.com.pa. They have the fastest payouts in the industry, 24/7 customer support, and you even get your own custom account manager. And when you sign up, you use this promo code. It's YouTube150. It gives you a 150% sign-up bonus on your very first deposit, and then you get 125% on your second and third deposit. So great stuff from BetUS, all up to $2,000. Deposit less and bet with more at BetUS. Go to betus.com.pa. That's betus.com.pa. We'll be back in 3 minutes, everybody, on Birds 365.
Ignite your nights with free live entertainment daily, only at Live Casino and Hotel Philadelphia's Center Bar. 7 days a week, enjoy some of the region's top party bands, performers, and DJs as they take the stage in the heart of the casino action. Great cocktails, live music, and lively moments. It's all happening at Center Bar at Live Casino and Hotel Philadelphia. Visit livecasinophilly.com for more details and the complete list of upcoming events. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The following is a real testimonial from the father of a young injured victim.
I didn't think she was going to make it.
Major Perry's daughter was the victim of a horrific accident caused by someone else's negligence.
If you don't find the right counselor, law firm that you're looking for, you will get lost in the wilderness.
Badly injured? Call the Fritz and Bianculli Law Firm at 215-458-2222 and find out why they say, "We got this."
In our hometown, we all look out for each other. We step up to keep our communities going strong. And at Independence Blue Cross, we're here to keep you going strong as the #1 health insurer in the region. No IBX is always looking out for you.
We noticed that there was mold creeping into our basement about a year and a half ago, and wanted to make sure that we were getting rid of the problem permanently. We actually reached out to several different contractors to get it resolved, and actually 2 of them recommended DryTech to us as a long-term solution. Other than the noise factor, we wouldn't even know that there was work being done on the basement level. It's really been a clean process for us.
Score and save this football season on your car insurance. Before the next game, save up to 40% on your auto insurance policy. That's right, 40% savings. Call an audible this season and contact the Del Val Insurance Group. They're an advocate for you, not an insurance company. That means they'll get you the right coverage and save you up to 40%. Call managing partners Fran or Jim of Del Val Insurance, 215-354-0122, or score and save at dvigi.com. dvigi.com.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to a Thursday edition of Birds 365. Moving in now to NFL Week 15. Eagles versus Steelers this weekend. Birds 11-2, Steelers 10-3. Eagles first in the NFC East, Steelers first in the AFC North. There's a good matchup here this weekend, and we will see how this game plays out. Now, Johnny Mac, I teased before the break some numbers that I want to run by you on Kellen Moore, or on the Eagles passing game. And I am now wondering if Kellen Moore is a bigger problem than I was giving credit. I think Jalen Hurts hasn't played as well as we would have liked to see him play so far, but these numbers are a little alarming. I'm going to pull them up on the screen and show everybody here what I'm looking at. John, let me finish here, and then I'll get your reaction on everything I show you. So here we have Pro Football Focus. I know some people like it, some people don't like it. Who cares? Not the point of what
you're Mr. PFF now.
Yeah, I'm going to be Mr. PFF for the day. So this is 24, and I ranked them here by the passing grade on the offense. Cincinnati Bengals 1, Ravens 2, Commanders up in the top 5, Vikings are up there, Chiefs, Lions, Packers, all the great teams. There you go, in the top 10. Birds are down here ranked 25th in passing grade. Now, the interesting thing about this is it doesn't factor in how many pass plays you're running. It's grading each play. So it's, you can't really say, oh, well, they're not passing a lot, that's why they're ranked low. That would not be why they're ranked low. So the grade there is 65.8, and they're 25th in the NFL. Now, if we go back real quick and look at 23, the year that Brian Johnson was the worst offensive coordinator to ever grace the city of Philadelphia, so we were told, and you graded here again by passing offense, the Philadelphia Eagles, 83.3. They were number 8 in the NFL. Go back to 22, Jalen Hurts' MVP season, lost in the Super Bowl that year.
Runner-up
80.7. They were 5th in the NFL. Now you click on the Eagles and you find, let me find Jalen Hurts. Sorry, here, let me go to Jalen Hurts. I lost it, damn it. Where do I search for the play? There we go. And this is the last alarming thing that I'll look at here. And if you look at his grades, it's not giving me the grade now. You look at his passing grade. This is his worst passing season outside of 2020, even lower graded in the pass game this year, John, than 2021, his first season as a starter. 22, he was an 83.8. 23, he was an 83.9, down to 66.5 this year. So these are Jalen Hurts' worst numbers in the passing game from a grade standpoint. And it's his worst, and these are the worst numbers for the Eagles in the passing game in 3 years. Is Kellen Moore a bigger issue here than we think? Because when I look at those numbers, Jalen Hurts was the quarterback last year. Jalen Hurts was the quarterback in 2022. Like, I know he has his limitations, but why was the passing game, why was Jalen Hurts graded so much better last year when, people wanted Brian Johnson fired than they are right now? I'm sorry, but I don't think Saquon Barkley is a good explanation for that drop-off in grading. What say you, Johnny Mac?
No, well, in theory, I mean, the running game a better running game should only help a quarterback when it comes to passing efficiency,
Right.
not hurts, not harm. Now, overall offense, as I kind of explained, with 2,000-yard rushers in the past, it's probably too much in a counterintuitive sense when you want to build the kind of consistent, balanced offense that most of the great teams have that can do both well at a very high level. So it probably hurts or hinders a little bit, which is, again, counterintuitive. Same thing from what I mentioned with the passing game. Too much, Dan Marino, Dan Fouts, you could argue too much, and it hurts in the opposite direction. But yeah, he's gotten worse. I mean, and Kellen was brought in to evolve this offense, not devolve it.
Right.
And right now they're back to arguably behind where they were in 2021 when they made the changes. Originally first made the changes, and then you started to evolve from that point, and now they've gone back to it, and arguably even behind it, if that makes sense. So that part is to me. Now, if you look at it on the field, and I think Mike Gill said this yesterday, all right, there's receivers open. So from the scheme point, everybody talks about scheme. And Nick Sirianni will tell you too, he's blue in the face. It's players, first, players plays, then players formation, then scheme, which is last. That's not the important part. The important part is the teaching that goes on during the week. Why is Jalen Hurts not seeing the field clearly? Has that teaching gone in a negative direction? And unfortunately, we have no way of knowing that. No way of grading it. No way of knowing it. But if you're just judging Kellen Moore but by what he was brought here to do, it's not good. Now, on the other hand, I give him a lot of credit for saying, all right, we got to scale this thing back to win games and building around the strengths of this particular team. I give him credit for that. That's what good coaches are supposed to do. Players first, build around your players.
Yeah, but we had a good running game last year and in 22. So I'm not like, why is the grade so much lower this year in the passing game?
Because the quarterback is not playing as well.
So do you think his deficiencies are new, or they're just rearing their head more so this year than they were in the previous 2 seasons?
Well, he's playing worse. So, part of it, a lot of it's on the quarterback, but the question is, why is it worse? Why is it? It's not age. It's not injury related. He's got a finger he's dealing with, but he's been hurt more significantly in the past. So why? If anybody has that answer, they can make a lot of money, coaching in this league, because everybody's trying to figure out why. Is it just we talked about with Jake Elliott? Maybe his struggles are tied to not getting enough opportunities. Maybe it's as simple as that.
Right. So he's not in rhythm, and that's making the whole thing come down.
And again, when you said we turn the page, and I pretty much have to turn the page, but there's something I did not like from Jalen's press conference
Oh,
that
I'd like to hear.
I said it in the first hour, but I'll say it again. I've submitted myself to
Oh,
whatever it
right.
takes to win. I don't like that. And he said it twice. I'm submitting myself. Here's the second time. For who I am right now, I'm submitting myself to what we're doing, how we're approaching it, and trying to do what I can to win and play at a high level. I don't like that. That as soon as he said it, that to me signaled I'm doing it, but I don't like it. And if that's your mentality, that might explain the regression right there. I can't come up with a better explanation for it than that. I don't think he likes it. Same as AJ. I don't think they like it.
Yeah, and you also tie it in, John, with the comment after the game where I'm just doing what I'm being asked.
Exactly. I'm glad you brought that up. I was trying to find that. Exactly. I don't think he likes this offense and what's going on. Same, people hyper focus on AJ for whatever reason. Receiver wants the ball. Quarterback wants to throw the ball.
I wonder, boy, everybody took the AJ comments and said it's about Jalen. Is it possible that AJ was speaking up for Jalen and AJ together? Because now Jalen wasn't as clear. He didn't come out and say, what AJ said, but he said, I'm doing what I'm told. I'm submitting to what is winning games.
Yeah, I did not like that term. And he usually is very intentional. A lot of times you're speaking off the cup. And I just, I say it all the time. People aren't under oath. Sometimes you say things, they don't come across the way you wanted them to come across. But this is a very intentional person. And he generally uses his words very carefully. And that word just raised my antenna. I've submitted myself. That's not great. And to give it all the context so people don't go down that route, the entire quote, I've submitted myself to whatever it takes to win. You look at the course of the years and we've had different conversations about who the most valuable player is and the recognition and whatever. And it's all about the team, but you see different areas shining in different years. Obviously it's the running game shining now. It's about the team. I don't care how it looks. It's my game. And I think that's what some people have to accept. It's going to look how Jalen Hurts wants it to look, but he's going to win. A lot of people didn't like that, by the way. Anytime you go to a third person.
What did you think of that?
I don't care. He is a winner. And he is submitting himself to something else that is probably not his first choice, but they're winning.
Yeah, I was on the air when he was speaking, and I saw that clip, and my original reaction to it was a lot different than once I listened to the full press conference after I got off the air, and I thought it sounded much better in the full press conference than when it did when someone isolated the clip out.
Yeah, well, and then he was asked a follow up because, and it was basically, you're the quarterback, you're the most important player on the team. It wouldn't be wrong for you to say, you have to do different things. And Jalen's answer was, it's not wrong to say that. I think from my vantage point, I put an emphasis on the importance of winning and what that is. But also, as you grow and evolve, the longer you can saturate yourself in something, the more comfortable you can get in it. So basically the passing game. So as everything begins and ends with the quarterback myself, that's what it is. For who I am right now, I'm submitting myself again to what we're doing and how we're approaching it and trying to do what I can to win and play at a high level. He's the same as AJ. There is no disconnect. They both want to throw the ball more. And I don't know if anyone has said that, and if I'm the first to say it, I shouldn't be. Anybody who thinks the quarterback doesn't want to throw the football more is living in a fantasy world. And they're lucky to have a guy who at least, is that focused on winning above all else.
Yeah, but isn't it still an indictment on him a little bit?
In what way?
If you have to submit to win and remove the passing game more so from that equation.
Well, it might be I see what you're saying. It might be an indictment on him as a player. Yeah.
A passer. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's an indictment on what the Eagles think on him as a passer, to be honest. I mean, if we're being completely honest, and I'll take the heat like AJ. I'll be the villain if I have to do. But the Eagles don't think he can pass at a high level. That's why they've done what they've done. That's the bottom line. Actions speak louder than words. Because you have the best offensive line in football. Arguably, there's some other teams that can, Cincinnati, Minnesota. So there's some other teams that can say they might have a better receiving duo, but very few. They're at the top of the line when it comes to receiving duos. And the running game is the best in the NFL, which again should help the passing game. Not hurt it, should help the passing game. Because as everybody gets hyper-focused on stopping Saquon, you have these open receivers and should be easier. So the Eagles' actions say they don't think they have a quarterback that can throw the football at a high level consistently. So blame your favorite team. Don't blame me.
Interesting takeaway there from Johnny Mack. Hard for me to disagree with him and push back on it right now because the Eagles have gone away from it. So how can I don't know how to sit here and dispute that because the Eagles' actions have showed that your line of thinking would be correct.
Yeah, I don't know how you can argue it. Plenty of people will because they say, well, Saquon's playing.
They say it. Well, the thing this year is passer rating, completion percentage, all of those are way up.
Yeah. Well, and again, I would ask all those people, what is passer rating? How does that calculate it? Number one, because I know 99% have no idea. Not everybody. I'm sure some people do, but the vast majority have no idea. And the vast majority doesn't know what a flawed stat it is. And that's fine. But the fact that they scale back is the issue. If you're playing at that level and you're assuming he could throw it 38 times with the same passer rating or whatever number you want to focus on. Well, he already did in weeks 1 through 4, and that's why they scaled it back. So to assume you could just extrapolate 15, 20 throws into 40 throws in a particular game and get the same level of protection of the football, get the same level of, whatever highlighted number you want to point out is a little bit flawed, to say the least.
Get to a couple super chats. 25 minutes left in the show. Interesting topic here with the whole offense. We'll see what they do to figure it out this weekend. And they got a tough matchup versus Steelers this weekend. First in the AFC North. They're 10-3. And Mike Tomlin is a damn good head coach, by the way, John. I've been watching that Hard Knocks in season.
He's awesome.
It's the whole AFC North, which is really cool. I don't know if they've ever done that. I was never a huge Hard Knocks watcher before this, but I've been really, I mean, there's only been 2 episodes, but I've really enjoyed the 2 episodes. Jameis Winston. I love Jameis Winston, and I like Mike Tomlin. Those are my 2 favorite guys in the Hard Knocks. Suo Blaze checks in. Suo, appreciate it, man. Good morning. And he says, by the way, almost at our super chat goal at 13 out of 20. So big thanks to you guys for checking in and giving us the super chats today. Let's see if we can reach that goal in the next 25 minutes. Suo says, I'm pretty sure Kellen was top 5 in passing his 4 years in Dallas and top 15 with the backup QB with the Chargers. The problem isn't Kellen.
Well, he's part of it.
Though, for the type of quarterback that Jalen is, because like I pointed out on the PFF, they were graded way higher in the pass last year, and Jalen still had the same deficiencies as a passer.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, to say Kellen is not the problem, he's part of the problem. The issue is how much of the problem. I'm with you in the fact that I put most of it on Jalen, but I wouldn't put none of it on Kellen. It's his job. Again, it's his job. People are hyper-focused on scheme. I'm never going to change that. It's the least important part of the process. Like, again, I say you get whoever you like. Ben Johnson's the guy right now in the NFL. There's now enough information. You can find literal Ben Johnson playbooks on the internet if you want to go down that rabbit hole. You can find Vic Fangio schematics. The Honest NFL puts everything up for everybody. Literal, plays and information to know everything about Vic Fangio's scheme. Anybody can get that information. Anybody. You can copy it. You can do whatever you want with it. Can you teach it? I can't teach it. I can copy it. I can't teach it. That is so much more important than the scheme part of it. And I know I'm fighting an uphill battle. Anybody can copy it. And multiple people have tried to copy Vic, and tons of people are going to try to copy Ben Johnson, or whatever. How many people have tried to copy Sean McVay is probably the better starting point, because he's far into it, and he's got so many disciples around the league, scattered around the league now. Can you teach it? You can say he did top 5 in Dallas. That doesn't translate. He doesn't have the same players. You can say he was top 15 and with the Chargers with a backup quarterback. He doesn't have the same players. Can you teach that system? They tried and they scaled it back. Actions speak louder than words. You're muted, Zander.
Good stuff there from Johnny Mac. Appreciate everybody checking in today on the show. Don't forget to hit that like button. See if we can get to 150. Got a good crowd in here, and we appreciate everybody helping us hit our super chat goal. Little Q&A with John. We have no guests. It's nice to do, and I hope the viewers appreciate it. I certainly appreciate listening to John respond to everybody. Brian says, Jalen Hurts needs hooked on phonics for reading defenses. I've never seen a guy look more unintelligent on a football field. Jalen Knights are in denial. Come on, Pumper. A little too far.
A little too the typical of Brian. A little too far.
Gotta respect the consistency, though, right?
Yeah, a little too far.
What do you think about Jalen reading defenses, though? Just on a real note.
Not great. Obviously. That's if you're a slow processor, you're not great. I mean, is what it is. Justin Fields not great.
He does talk so slow too, Jalen. Like I put it on his press conference. I put it on 1.25 or 1.5, and it sounds like it sounds like a regular. It doesn't sound like it's sped up at all. It just sounds like a normal regular.
Well, I don't think that has anything to do with the slow process.
No, I know. I'm just saying in general, he seems to be a subdued, slow in general.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you just brought up Nick Saban going all the way back to Alabama. Talking about it, essentially the same thing. well, if he's not going to have that running aspect, we need the quicker process. By the way, ironic too, is the quickest processor in the NFL, sometimes to a detriment. It works both ways.
Right.
Tua seems a lot of times that back foot hits the ground and that ball's coming out no matter what. And sometimes that's a detriment as well. So you want somebody comfortable in the middle. And we all know, I mean, it's different. It's not easy. First play of the game, it's so interesting. Second play of the game, I think it was, when everybody points to AJ's wide open. And I've kind of defended Jalen on that one because I believe from talking to people that was a low to high read, not a high to low read. And, you're dealing with a very good corner. They were trying to put JC Horn in conflict. That's a very good corner. And you have to understand, he understands what he's watching. And he's deciphering what's going on, the defender. And he's leaning towards the intermediate route because he knows that's the first read. And by the time he makes his move, Jalen had already checked down to, had already gone to the check down, which is the third read on the play. And that's when AJ was breaking open. So it's so complicated. And, unless, since we're talking to the media, talking about the media so much, like our job is to get access and to ask questions of the people, because one of the things, and for the people that hate PFF or like certain film people or don't like certain film people, you never know. That part of it is true. You never have 100% on every play what is designed unless you get that access and unless you ask the people involved. And that's what our job is to do. And from the people I talked to, the first read there was Devontae Smith, not AJ Brown. It was low to high,
Right.
not high to low. Some people think it's otherwise because it might even be Chase Daniel or somebody like that who's played the position, or Dan Orlowski's played the position, because maybe in their offense it was high to low and not low to high. But in this offense, it's low to high on that particular play. And by the time AJ was streaking open, JC Horn, again, the play was over by that point, which I think a lot of people don't understand. Once the quarterback comes off it, and I always say about even worse is about plays on the other side of the field. I always say quarterbacks aren't owls. If you have a progression on the right side of the field and someone's taking a screenshot of AJ Brown running wide open on the other side of the field, what relevance is that? It's not even in the progression of the play. So yeah. But what you can say is that the quarterback has regressed in Kellen Moore's scheme. So probably both have a hand in that. And along with a lot of other people.
Good stuff here. We got some super chat infighting. Brian says, are we sure Jalen Hurts is not Tobias Harris with a chat GPT account? I don't even know what that means, Pumper. And then Rodney says, Brian Pumper's a troll, and the first year he has total control, we're 11-2. What's more important, 409 passing yards and a loss, or the win? Yeah, but you got to separate those two, Rodney. I mean, I know everybody likes to talk about Josh Allen, 6 touchdowns and he lost. That's not really the point. You're talking about late in the season, margin of error, who can make plays when you're down. Rodney, you're down 7. You get the ball with 1:43 seconds, and you got no timeouts.
Rodney,
who do you trust more to go down the field and get the touchdown through the air? Because you can't rely on Saquon there. I think that's what we're talking about. But I get why people, rag on Josh Allen for the 6 touchdowns and a loss. He doesn't have the team, Jalen.
Well, that's just like they bragged on Jared Goff for the 5 interceptions in the win.
Right.
Same type of thing. But he does not, number one, Rodney, he does not have total control. He just talked about submitting yesterday.
Yeah. I think he means at the line of scrimmage, though. Is that fair to say?
He does not have total control over it. He has more control than he had, but he does not have total control. Is Roger Staubach in the 70s, Terry Bradshaw in the 70s, where they ran the whole game from the line of scrimmage. The closest in recent years would be Tom and Peyton, obviously. But no, nobody has total control in the modern NFL.
Suo says, since the turnovers this year, they've toned down his passing. Now he looks hesitant to throw the ball out there. Something isn't right. I think that's a fair eye test for most people that are watching.
Yeah, he got asked that yesterday. Nick's been asked that. Yeah, I mean, they obviously were hyper-focused on limiting turnovers coming out of the bye, and I think it's affected him. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Like right now, he looks like unwilling to take chances. And these are not even chances. Getting the football out on time. He's really, really hyper-focused on not turning the football over. And I do think it's hurt his game and the Eagles' passing game as a whole.
Nate the God checks in. J Mac Izzle, Dan silly joke. Said this is a PR cover-up. How much of these interviews seem sincere? But real quick, let me clarify. That's not what Cilio said. Cilio said, people come out and say the truth. And then when they come back and immediately backtrack and apologize, typically what they said first is how they feel or is the truth in their opinion. So everybody in Eagle Land takes, oh, they apologized. Oh, it's all good. You know, they came out and clarified it. Well, do you trust the apology or do you trust the initial commentary? Cilio trusts it or believes the initial commentary. I think that's completely fair to do, especially when you're talking about a $1 billion football team with a PR group that, you know, cares as much as they do. Anyway, I digress. And if Detroit and us have the same record, who gets the bye? Nate the God says. But your thoughts on the first part, and then we'll talk about the Detroit bye.
Well, I would turn to Jordan Mailata, who said, you know, basically, yeah, like he knows the truth. There's nothing he can do. It's up to the court of a public opinion, and there's nothing we can ever say that can change that. And that's why he's frustrated. Yeah, I mean, most of the time, I would agree with Dan. The way you phrased Dan, and I didn't hear it, is that most of the time the original comments are the truthful ones, and then it's then it's about sort of you know, trying to limit the damage, so to speak.
Put the fire.
Most of the time, yeah. And I would say that's what was going on yesterday, trying to put the fire out. But I don't think the fire was that big of a deal. I think it was more of an ember than a fire.
Yeah.
Because everybody knows the passing game is a problem. And as I pointed out earlier in the show, I think AJ and Jalen are actually the ones on the same page because they both want to throw the ball more. So I don't know if many people have said that, but you know, when he said submit, that's not a positive word. So I actually think AJ and Jalen are on the same page.
Yeah, weirdly, that's kind of what I took from yesterday as well. Nate the guy. Oh, and then he also said, if Detroit and us have the same record, who gets the bye? I believe it will be Detroit, right?
Yeah.
Does it depend?
Detroit. Yeah. Well, like if Detroit loses to Buffalo, it's not that big of a deal. That's why you need them to lose twice,
right?
Because it's an AFC team, and they've.
I don't think they're going to lose to Buffalo either. By the way, that game's at Ford Field.
No, I don't think so either. But some people have said, well, maybe they'll lose to Buffalo, maybe they'll lose to Minnesota, and that game's at Ford Field as well. So I'm with you. Buffalo's getting Detroit's getting the number 1 seed, but yeah, it's very unlikely the Eagles are going to get the number 1 seed unless, you know, they lose to 2 games and the Eagles win out. And, you know, it's unlikely, but still a possibility.
Nate the God, appreciate that, brother. Thanks for checking in. Brian again says, still haven't seen Jalen Hurts take accountability. He speaks in tongues MF needs to grow up. It does speak a little bit in those
Yeah, he's got a lot of Jalen Hurts-isms.
Shakespearean in it. Yeah. I don't mind it, but what did you think of the one comment yesterday, John? And just speaking about the accountability, the one comment yesterday of like, it's going to look how Jalen Hurts wants it to look. In a way, that man, maybe I'm way off base. Do you perceive that as, I don't care if the passing game doesn't look good because it's going to look how I want it to look and we're going to win anyway? Or because like if you say that, then maybe it shows I don't need to fix anything, you know?
I think it was more of the win aspect of it. The winning is going to look the way Jalen Hurts. But first of all, never talk in the third person. You sound like an asshole. That's
sometimes I refer to myself as Big Z because that's what everybody in the chat calls me. Maybe I do look like an asshole. Sorry.
Everybody. That's good advice to anybody in any avenue. Any avenue.
Ronnie Mac just subtly called me an asshole, but that's all right. I'll take it.
I wasn't thinking about that.
I know. I'm just messing with you.
I've done it. Everybody's done it in the past. But yeah, I mean, I would try to limit that. Yeah, he kind of contradicted himself in the same statement. But yeah, I thought that was more about, the winning part of it. And he has won. He has won at a high level. He has won games. And it ain't easy to win games in this league, especially at the level he's winning at. So I think from his standpoint, it's, why do we get so much shit when I win every week? Which I get from a personal standpoint. But again, he knows and identified the passing game as a problem. And I'm pretty sure he wants to improve it. But the one part where I go, I'm not all woe is me. I do think that things are hyper focused and built up because of this team's fan base and passion. And I would say largest media contingent in the NFL. It's even bigger than New York and Chicago, bigger cities because of the passion for the people. For this team. So I do think he's maybe under a bigger microscope than others, but every single starting quarterback in this league, good ones, bad ones, down to the worst ones, all the way down to Tommy DeVito, get shit if they don't play well. That's not unique to Philadelphia. Anybody who thinks it is crazy.
Keep rolling here. Got a bunch. Appreciate everybody, by the way, helping us reach our super chat goal today. You guys are the best. It's been a great show today. We previewed Eagles Steelers. Good. We talked about the press conferences from yesterday and the reaction, the response from AJ, from Jalen. We talked about that. And then now we're doing a bunch of super chats. So big thanks to everybody today. Don't forget to hit that like button. We're up to 130. Can we get to 150 before the show is out in 6 minutes? Big thanks to everybody for doing that. Rashid says, John, exactly what you said is the issue. It all goes back to week 1 through 4. What I've been trying to say isn't of staying and all to correct TOS they changed. I don't know what that last sentence means. John, can you see if you can decipher that better than I did? Isn't it?
I don't know. Clarify what
Rashid, if you clarify your last sentence, I think you might have had a spelling error there. I'll come back to you, Rashid. You don't have to do a super chat. Just put in
the week 1 to 4 thing is yeah, I mean, I was very surprised at just the reactionary nature. And part of that is stemming from last year because the reactionary nature of firing Sean Desai, I thought was a disaster. Not firing, demoting him, but you get the point.
I think he's saying all to correct turnovers. Thank you, Hassan. Got it. To correct turnovers.
Yeah, it was. And I thought it was an overcorrection. Because, look, part of it is, it's a fine line and it's a difficult line. Nobody's saying it's easy. But you don't want to just, like anybody can prevent turnovers if they really want to. Just throw all safe passes. And then occasionally, somebody's going to fumble if you're running, but something crazy is going to happen. But you can limit turnovers if you really want to, if you really just want to play it safe. And, but then you're not going to be explosive. And Nick talks all the time about winning the double positives, and they're contradictory: turnovers versus explosive plays. Well, to get explosive plays, you have to take chances every once in a while. So it's a very fine line, and it's very difficult. But the Eagles have gone too far, I would say, in the protecting the football realm, and it's hurt their passing game dramatically, I would say. And maybe it's as simple as they drummed it into the quarterback, and the quarterback is hesitant to take any chance whatsoever for fear of turning the football over. And if that's the case, that's a very bad thing.
Agreed. Let's keep rolling here. Last couple on the show today. Thanks, everybody. William Johnson says, why is Jalen highlighted for not being able to read coverages, and other quarterbacks who are worse, like Mitch Trubisky, is worse at it, but never said?
Why would anybody be talking about Mitch Trubisky? Mitch Trubisky is awful.
William, what the fuck are you talking about, William? I mean, hey, thanks for the $10, but Jalen Hurts is a bona fide starting quarterback.
Why would anybody
$50 million a year? Mitch Trubisky's a backup.
Believe me, Mitch Trubisky got a boatload of shit in Chicago. A boatload of people pointing out this guy's awful. This is one of the worst trades in draft history. I mean, yeah, that is a very bad example. There are a million quarterbacks worse than Jalen Hurts at reading defenses. A lot of them we never talk about, because they don't play. Yeah, I just took a backhanded shot at Tommy DeVito for the people that noticed. Yeah. Jalen Hurts played at an MVP level, wasn't the MVP, played at an MVP level in the 2022 season. So everybody's trying to get him back to that level. He has played at a high level of quarterback in this league. Nobody's won more consistently. He's at a different standard than the Mitch Trubisky's of the world. And that's, again, expectation. Same with the team. The team's 11-2. You should all be happy about that. There's only two teams in football with a better record than the Eagles, and one team that's tied with them. So they're right. I don't think, is anybody else 11-2? Minnesota is. I don't think anybody else is. So
no one else.
4 teams. That's pretty good. But what is the goal? The goal changes when you're 11-2. And we're talking about the goal with that goal in mind. And I'm not talking about beating Pittsburgh. I'm talking about winning the Super Bowl. Can they win the Super Bowl playing the way they're playing? Anything's possible, but the margin of error is small right now, and it's got to increase.
Mitch Trubisky is an interesting name. Me and Mitch Trubisky have a weird connection, Johnny Mac. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Mitch Trubisky is married to my high school girlfriend, if you can believe.
Really?
Well, my high school girlfriend, actually my senior year of high school and freshman year of college. He is now married to my ex-girlfriend, which is really funny. So every time I think of Mitch Trubisky, I think about my high school girlfriend.
You might be a little bitter. Might be a little bitter against Mitch Trubisky.
Oh, I'm not bitter. I'm actually not bitter at all. I think I like Mitch. He seems like a good dude. But
I'm sure he is a good dude, but he's not a great quarterback. Not a great quarterback.
But pretty funny there. Man in Black says,
I just looked up Mitch Trubisky's wife, and I'm going to say, well done, Zander.
Yeah, that was well done by Big Z there.
I'm going to say out kicking the coverage, my friend.
Yeah. Man in Black says, Nick rocking the Quinyanamo Bay shirt just for you, John, because he is lockdown.
Yeah. Well, I would argue that you have no idea what a lockdown corner is. That's what I would argue. The Eagles play zone again. Big Fangio, by the way. How much time we have? I got to look it up.
We got to go. You got to get down to NovaCare.
Vic Fangio said it this week. So don't believe me. Say, believe Vic Fangio. And so the question, well, with Quinyon Mitchell, it seems like teams just don't target him very much. Is that surprising to you, knowing that he's a rookie? Vic Fangio's answer: a lot of times it's due to the coverage we're playing too. Like I tell you all, Vic is nothing if not honest. This is a zone coverage team. Lockdown. Now, if you anybody can make any definition they want, but lockdown corner in the NFL is about press corners who take away one half of the field. That's how people in the industry describe lockdown corners. Quinyon Mitchell is not a lockdown corner, not because he's not good, because the Eagles don't play that style of defense. It is not an insult to Quinyon Mitchell, who is doing a spectacular job as a rookie cornerback in this league. He does not play a lot of press coverage. Don't believe me. Believe the guy who calls the defense.
Good stuff, Johnny Mac. I knew Man in Black was going to fire at you with that. William Johnson followed up. It's not the greatest example, but it's a question. Yes, Jalen has to definitely improve. Agree with that. We got to let Johnny Mac go, everybody. Lauren says that's an $8.3 billion football team, Z. Yeah, look, Jeffrey Lurie moving on from what, 8%? What's he cash out there? 600 and
640 million. A lot of
640,
people,
my math is close.
A lot of people saying he's raising money to build a new stadium to get Super Bowls to Philadelphia. So we'll see how that transcribes in the coming years. It'll be a while though.
Any more super chats I missed? We got one. Troll, even his fans can't take accountability. Sorry, the standard is not the standard with the QB. Trust the preparation. What preparation, Jalen? I do think, Brian, that it should be not controversial to hold the quarterback to a high standard. Papa Smurf says Jalen's obviously an up-tempo type of quarterback, also meaning he's obviously can lead a final drive if needed by any means necessary, and he's proven to do that. You're not wrong.
I think when it turns into a 4-down game, you got issues with Jalen Hurts because, I mean, he's going to run for a first down if he has to, and that's part of the relentlessness I talk about. But remember, my concern with this team is not necessarily, and by the way, I like the tempo comment. They're much better when they use tempo.
Yeah. You've been saying that since when? Last year?
Yeah. They're much better. So I agree with that. The problem is if this team, again, is down 2 scores late in the game. That's the problem. Can they come back from 1 score? Yeah, I have no doubt about that because they're especially in a 4-down situation. Can they come down 14? Should be able to. Right now, I don't think they're capable of it.
Good stuff. And one more, Johnny Mac. Seth Shifley, thank you for all you guys do. You both do not get enough credit. Great content as always. Seth, thank you, man. I appreciate it. Johnny Mac, I'll let you go. I know you're getting down to NovaCare Complex. Anything on the agenda today other than normal Thursday practice? And you'll probably speak to Nick, right?
No Nick till tomorrow. We talked to him yesterday. Didn't get into it much because it was all AJ and Jalen, but he spoke yesterday. Similar things that he said on the radio, basically what he sees, they're fine, blah, blah, blah. Practice today, open locker room. So we'll talk to the players, hopefully about the Pittsburgh Steelers a little bit.
Good stuff there. Johnny Mac, we'll let you go, man. Thank you for doing it today. And we will catch you tomorrow on Birds 365.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Good stuff. Let me just real quick make sure everybody got all the super chats in today. We had a lot coming in. I want to make sure I get them all, John. I know how to go. All right. We got them all. So good stuff. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in today. Yeah, we hit our super chat target. Philly Don, good to see you, brother. Thanks for checking in. Appreciate everybody checking in and all the funny comments. You guys got me laughing. As always, appreciate each and every one of you. Hit that like button. Mesmerized. Peace, brother. Thanks for being here. Real Zeal. Appreciate you checking in. Crowley's in here. Twiz the Jig. Appreciate all you guys. Callie Baby is in here. Man in Black. I liked your super chat going at Johnny Mac for Quinyanamo Bay. Good stuff, everybody. I'll catch you next time on Birds 365, and that'll be tomorrow. Football Friday. A football fuck it Friday. I got a feeling we're going to get some F-bombs tomorrow. We had a couple F-bombs early in the show today and then didn't have many. Maybe we should start a F-bomb swear jar and give it to charity or something. I think that'd be pretty fun. I think that'd be pretty fun to do if we did something like that. But I don't know how to keep track of all the F-bombs. Appreciate all of you guys. Hit that like button, and we will see you later on today on the National Football Show and tomorrow on Birds 365. Thanks, everybody.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate, inside the locker room, and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.